Okay, sir, we are live.
Okay, thank you. So, good morning, participants, and a warm welcome to today's resource person, Dr. Rajendra Kumar Garu. I am very much thankful for you, sir, for accepting our invitation to be as one of the resource persons for this STTP. And this is a brief introduction regarding the today's speaker. So, Dr. Rajendra Kumar Garu received his MTech and PhD from NIT Kurukshetra, Haryana. He is working as assistant professor at NIT Kurukshetra with 15 years of experience, providing thorough and skillful support to engineering institutions and leading academic universities. He received All India Young Scientist Award for the year 2007 for Best Research Paper in Information Technology discipline at and he also successfully completed 3 projects from Kurukshetra Development Board on installation of centralized camera networking, centralized PA sound system, sensor-based tablets in Kurukshetra district. Total project worth of 59 lakhs. He coordinated 6 short-term FDP courses sponsored by various sponsoring agencies like AICT, MHRD, TechUp, etc. Sir guided 18 MTech dissertations in the area of wireless sensor networks and VLSI. Around 30 plus BTech projects are supervised in the areas of electronics and communication systems and presently is guiding 2 PhD candidates. Dr. Kumar published 30 plus research papers in the leading peer-reviewed international and national conferences and journals in the area of wireless sensor networks, wireless sensor networks, Internet of Things, Internet modeling and optimization techniques. And presently is working towards R&D projects with Terminal Ballistic Research Lab, Chandigarh and Navy Research Board of DRDO, Delhi. He also authored one book and he is dead and reviewed a number of books and he attended large number of workshops and is also member of national and international technical societies like IEEE, PVS, PES and IETE. Now I request our today's speaker Dr. Kumar Garu, please proceed with the session. Thank you, sir. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Sir, please, Kumar Garu. Sir. Sir, you can start the session, sir.
Yes, actually I am getting connected. I want to share my presentation.
Okay.
Facing some situation right now. Is it all right?
Yes, sir.
My slide is available?
Yes, sir.
So thank you very much for such a nice word for me. And first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Madhu. I am one of the student of his one of the workshops which I attended at NIT Warangal. So after that, I got so much of input. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir. Thank you, Madhu sir, for introducing me to this Guntur district. So thank you very much for such a nice word for me. And first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Madhu. So the STTP program on the Internet of Things on Smart Cities is a very promising and a very important topic which has been coined by the university, that the college located in Guntur. Now, straightaway coming to my topic, I will be talking on road traffic, and I will be talking through the perspective of Internet of Vehicles. Often we term them as smart vehicles, right? So, this is how I would like to move. First, I will introduce this title, Internet of Vehicles. Then I would like to share what is the motivation, why we should work on IOV, or why I am trying to contribute to IOV. Then some related work which I and along with me, 2 of my PhD scholars have so far surveyed. And then afterwards, one interesting system model I would like to share, which concerns with the road traffic. And after that, little bit of performance analysis, conclusion, and then the referred journals. So more or less, introduction to IOV, this picture dictates a lot. So there is something like global positioning system through which nowadays everything is being, I would say, monitored, navigated. Now in a simple picture, it's a crossroad, some pedestrians are moving and vehicles are moving, house is there. So you will find that some roadside units are available and some vehicles are also moving, pedestrians are also moving, they are carrying their mobile handsets, right? So I presume that all are mobile nodes. Those non-living things which cannot move, I presume that they are the fixed nodes, and probably they also have the feature of communicating with the rest of the other nodes. And this is how, this is a heterogeneous wireless networks we are seeing. First of all, I would like to just ask, am I audible properly? Hello? Hello?
You are audible, sir.
Okay, sir, just. So, this is a general structure by which we can understand that yes, we are talking about a heterogeneous environment or a smart ecosystem where different subsystems are available, right? So, if we talk about the Internet of Vehicle, it is something like a global network of wireless access technologies enabled vehicles involving internet and other heterogeneous networks. Now, broadly, we classify these heterogeneous network in context of IOV in 5 domains. First is the vehicle-to-vehicle network, vehicle-to-roadside units. They are often called as RSUs. Vehicle-to-infrastructure, that is V2I. Vehicle-to-personal devices, that is V2P. Vehicle-to-sensors, that is V2S. Now, you will see in this picture that different standards are there with Wi-Fi, wireless sensors, and WiMAX. All are integrated and they are interoperable. We presume while modeling the things that it is interoperable. And you will see that a special dedicated protocol is used, 802.11p, or termed as wave protocols, which have been explored and which you people can also refer and get a complete detail about the wave. So once I say vehicle, it's a mobile node, and I assume that any vehicle, if I mount any wireless sensor node on that vehicle, that becomes another sensor node which is moving. Although it's a vehicle, right? And if I could say any RPI module, say Raspberry Pi is another module which I would like to mount on the vehicle, and that becomes an IoT device which is having the mobility. Now next interesting thing is that now I will consider that RPU unit as an onboard unit, OBU, and the roadside unit as the RSU, right? So this is how we get something like a structure with RSUs, that is roadside unit, and OBUs like onboard units, right? So just go through this picture. Here you will see that this is a roadside unit which communicates with rest of the other vehicles. If it is using this type of structure, it is called as vehicle to infrastructure. One RSU is required and all the other OBUs are mounted on the car or vehicle, right? Now there is another interesting thing. One vehicle can communicate with another vehicle, that is vehicle to vehicle, in ad hoc mode. That is called VANET, vehicle ad hoc networks, a very popular term. Another one is vehicle to pedestrian, which means that on-board unit on the vehicle is communicating with the handset which the pedestrian is carrying. So it's a vehicle to pedestrian network. So likewise, we have classified 5 different classes where vehicle or the onboard unit is getting connected with the roadside unit, or the onboard unit is connected with the another onboard unit. Now, you will see that why we have selected this IOV. First is the growing traffic casualties in road. According to the US DOTS intelligence, I have referred later, Transportation Systems Strategic Plan 2015 to 19, the total number of worldwide road traffic deaths due to the various traffic accidents on road is 1.25 million per year. It's a big number. So after this is, I think, the corona which has got so many casualties. But this is really very, very big, 1.25 million per year. So we need to focus on this aspect. Second, motivation was the traveling time. According to McKinsey report, if 5 minutes of time is wasted while traveling across the globe, so across the globe, if we monetize it, then it is expected to generate euro 25 billion revenue per year by 2030. So it means this is a complete loss if every individual is losing 5 minutes of time on road. It means a euro dollar of 25 billion is lost if we calculate the man-hour monetization concept. And by 2030, this is expected to give this much of loss. So if we save 5 minutes on road, definitely some amount of value we can save. So this is the second motivation. Next is the market opportunities. Automobile industry is expected to increase the profit margin by 54 billion. Another detail which I collected from one magazine, I have cited that part also. According to Gartner, the connected car sale would reach up to 81 million annually, and 80% sale of the new cars would have some form of connected drive technology by 2025. So this is how I want to share that by 2025 how it will be increasing. Presently we are in 2020. Due to this pandemic, maybe it is not 46.7, it is, but it is in between 39.2 and 42 point something with the latest detail. But this is the number of connected car sales in millions, and by 2025 it is around 81.2 millions. So this is another reason to focus on this area and to talk about vehicles. Now there is one interesting thing, Internet of Vehicles versus VANET. So a pure ad hoc network architecture. Whenever we say VANET, we mean that one vehicle can communicate with the another vehicle. Once a vehicle becomes disconnected from an ad hoc network, it loses the services from the network in spite of the vehicle being on road. This is due to inability to collaborate with other alternative reachable networks. So this is one of the issue associated with VANET. Whereas IOV, if we talk about Internet of Vehicles, although one vehicle is communicating with the another vehicle, but the background network is the internet, which is making it smart. If somewhere one vehicle is unable to communicate with the destination vehicle, then the transmitting vehicle can make use of another cooperating vehicle as a cooperative sensor node, and through that node it can communicate. So probably one failure is not going to disturb the performance of the entire vehicular network. So this is one aspect. Then incompatibility with personal devices. This is due to incompatibility network architecture. This is one of the major challenges whenever we are getting evolved from 2G to 3G to 4G to 5G, and now we are anticipating the 6G. So in these evolution of Gs, that is the generation of wireless standards, probably incompatibility is one of the problems. Although up to 4G, not 4G, up to 5G, we have tried to address most of the incompatibility issues, and now we are having interoperable standards. But still, if we need to converge the different standards, still that area is open, which IOV can address and provide some solutions. Now, lower accuracy of the services. This is due to the computation based on local knowledge of traffic environments in VANETs. So intelligent decisions based on big data, mining, driven computations are not possible in current vanity architecture. So these are some of the things which we have taken up. Now there are certain commercial issues like incompatibility with the personal devices, lower accuracy, inability in analyzing the big data, pure ad hoc network architecture, another. So whatever we have discussed earlier can be uh, recapitulated in this way. Next is then what is this IOV architecture? As we all know that whenever we talk about a new network or an earlier conventional network or a computer network, we have layered architectures. So in case of say computer networks, we are having OSI reference model, the conventional one, then came the TCP/IP model, then came the hybrid models, and after that, so many reference models were designed, developed, and invented. Now, if we have to deploy IOV, that is Internet of Vehicle network, then in that case, we require a separate layered architecture as proposed by the IEEE magazines and journal. So generally we have, in case of IOV, we have 5 layered architecture. First is the perception layer, second is the coordination layer, third is the artificial intelligence layer, then application layer, and then finally the business layer. Of course, it's analogous to the OSI reference model, but here things are divided in different manner. For instance, in case of business layer, if you talk from the bottom layer, perception layer means here sensor and actuators of vehicles, RSUs, and personal devices are there, and their function is to gather data, right? Digitization and transmission is done, and if possible, if we are able to control the power, transmission power, then energy optimization could be handled properly. Now next, upper layer is the coordination layer. Coordination layer actually addresses the interoperable issues, that is, as I have already shared, that it's a heterogeneous network where different protocol and standards are used, wave protocol, Wi-Fi, LTE, and other networks are there. So we need to coordinate these different type of networks, and we form a unified structured transformation, and interoperable provisions are made here. Then security is also a concern because different networks have different security protocols to secure their independent networks. But authentication, authorization, and accountancy, AAA things are also available, which have to be carefully addressed while undergoing the aspects of coordination layer. Then comes the artificial intelligence layer, where cloud computing, big data analysis, and expert systems are there. Now, I think Mr. Madhu sir has done a lot in these two domains, especially the perception layer and the artificial intelligence layer. So, I mean, in most of the modules which I have gone through the schedule, that you will come across that how storing, processing, analysis of data through sensors, and then how digital transmission, and a little bit of and all the stuff through Python. He has modeled, and probably will be again demonstrating them through the STC as it progresses. So another artificial intelligence, a kind of a boom everywhere, where different types of machine learning algorithms and deep learning algorithms are encapsulated. So the representation part is like cloud computing, big data analysis, and expert systems are major constituents, and basic functionality is storing, processing, analysis of data, and service management based on profit. Definitely, which is directly connected to the quality of service. Next, upper layer is the application where we develop different type of apps, smart applications for vehicles and vehicular dynamics. So smart intelligent services to end users, service discovery and integration, application usage, data and statistics. Then the topmost layer is the business layer. Without economics, no network, no entity can survive in this globe. So representation, again, some graph, flowchart, table, diagram, which could infer something, some profit, which could infer, or which could give us the loss predictions also. So basic functionalities are like business model and investment designs, resource usage, and application pricing, budget preparation, and data aggregation. So mostly, in nutshell, IOV has five basic layers: perception, coordination, artificial intelligence, application, and business layer. So perception layer, if you talk about, we already gone through the function. The primary responsibility of the layer is to gather information regarding vehicle, traffic environment and devices. And this gathering of information is done through sensors. And probably through this STC, one of the sensor module which will be mostly utilized by Madhu sir will be RPI, an excellent module to realize most of the IoT applications. And of course, right now I have extended the IoT domain to IOV domain, and I am using the RPI 3 module for IOV purpose also. So the data gathering is done through the sensors in the perception layer. Then is the coordination layer. Here again we have to coordinate, already discussed. Then artificial intelligence layer. So here I would like to again emphasize that it's the brain of IOV and responsible for storing, processing and analyzing the information received from lower layer and decision making based on the critical analysis. Right, again this AI layer, I would say, perfectly fits in the RPI module where we have memory, where we can record our algorithm, code it through Python, and we can store, and through the API reference key, through the dashboard, we can analyze the gathered data and we can process the data. So very, very interesting layer to work upon. And all the algorithms connected with machine learning or deep learning can be processed, can be modeled and can be kept through the Python in the memory available in the RPI. So this is how artificial intelligence layer works in case of IOV. Then application layer, of course, the app development, global network for reliable vehicular communication. As stated earlier, that these are the driving force for the efforts being made in research and development in IoT. So this is the open area. All the BTech guys and MTech guys, they do their projects and they can develop their app, and this prototype or the architecture used by the IoT can be very well utilized. Next is the business layer. Of course, it contributes a lot to the business. If you do some of the, if you go through the statistics, some of the economics, definitely, like graph, flow chart, comparison table, case diagrams, then we can definitely suggest some decision-making models which could give some profitable business and pricing of usage of applications. And we can, what I would say, invite the entrepreneurs to work upon our proposed optimized algorithms through the IOV modules. Now, coming back to the building blocks of IOV, it's very, very simple, I would say. IOV is nothing but cloud plus connection plus client. So basically we have three components. One is the cloud, which represents the brain of IOV, where traffic information is uploaded, processed, stored, and disseminated using cloud architecture. Next is the connection, which is used to establish and maintain the communication between cloud and vehicle, processing cloud based on smart vehicles in IoT. There is one another term called fog computing or edge computing, which is being coined up by computer professionals. But I would say, the X-ray report of that is again the IOV. Here, the basic concept again moves around cloud connection and client. Vehicles for accessing the cloud based on smart devices in IoT.
Sir,
Now,
sir, 1 second, sir. So the slides, the partial slides are getting covered, sir. The full presentation is not visible.
the slide is,
The slide is partially hidden, sir. Your full presentation is not visible. Only the partial presentation is visible, sir.
for instance, I am focusing on the slide number 17. How much you are able to see?
Only 3/4, sir. 1/4 is getting covered due to this camera screen and all, I guess.
Uh, is it okay now?
Yeah, now it is fine, sir.
Now it is fine.
Yes.
Sorry, actually I have magnified that slide. If it is visible now, then it's okay.
It is visible, sir.
Okay. So shall I move?
Yes, sir, you can.
So next is the connection part. So cloud is something like already discussed. Connection is mostly focused on the wireless access technology. Right? Different types of standards are there by which we can connect the vehicles through the wave protocol, to other wireless standards already discussed. So connection is there, and then finally the main concern is the client. Client in IoV is represented by smart applications and can be broadly divided into two categories. One is the safety and management oriented, and second is the business oriented. These smart applications are the driving force for the efforts being made in R&D as far as the IoT domain is concerned. Now it is little difficult to understand. I mean, who are the clients? But I would say any application which has been developed is also a client, right? So it is related to safety, navigation, diagnostics, remote telematics, safety and management, IoT application, and if you talk about the business oriented clients, then of course like banking sectors, insurances, car sharing, infotainment, and other aspects. So you will see that so many diversified domains are there which acts as clients for this IoV architecture, right? So I still want to focus and dedicate 1 minute of time here. Like if we talk about safety, then it's the emergency call, wrong way driver warning, lane changing warning, automatic braking, overtaking warning, automatic speed control, right? Real time traffic information, interest point in car, locating parked car, speeding evidences, navigation area extension, multimodal transmission, localization events, parking space offers, electronic logging. So a few topics I think as a client have been already taken or will be considered in the STC module. I have already gone through the schedule, and probably Mr. Madhu is going to do a wonderful demo on these articles. Then is the, if I talk about the traffics, then service spot detection, car usage checking, self-repair, remote locking. If I talk about the remote telematics, then remote locking, unlocking, stolen vehicle recovery, car surveillance, driving behavior analysis, fuel usage optimization, and so many other things are there. Of course, these are the safety and management aspects. And then is the car sharing, infotainment, other and insurances. So one of my students has worked on AutoSAR also through the KPIT, and she has also told with her experience that sir, it's a very very open field to work upon, right? So just to give some thrust, like okay, we are not in a wrong domain. Now next is the components. So components of a vehicle to infrastructure system, or maybe if I talk about vehicle to vehicle infrastructure also, we have some components. Basically we have two components: in vehicle hardware, and there is one roadside equipment. We have two types of broad hardware associated with the vehicle, right? So, and the interesting thing is that the two different hardwares need to be interoperable. If you have developed a wonderful set of hardwares inside a vehicle, right, and they are communicating with each other, it's nice, like all the different sensors, light sensor, speed sensor, seat sensor, braking sensor, ergonomic sensor, pressure sensor, and what is that, obstacle sensor. so many sensors are there and they're well connected, they're well networked, but they are inside the hardware, inside the vehicle. They are well connected, but they are not able to communicate the things to the outer world or to the cloud or to the roadside unit. Then it's a complete failure, right? No decision or no intelligence could be, I would say, shared, or could be, there is no other intelligent body which can control this vehicle, right? So it's the interoperability. So useful information transmission in V2I, first thing is receive on time, it should be reliable, and it should follow the standardized protocol, distance short range communication, message on standardized protocol, that is .11. And why we have used this protocol for modeling? Because it has low latency, variance of Wi-Fi, instantaneous network connection, spectrum is slightly big, works on 5.9 gigahertz of band. So these are some of the salient features of this DSRC protocol, just to give an idea. And need not to go through this, just straight away come to this part. I hope this in-vehicle hardware is visible. So we have a GPS receiver, DSRC antenna. DSRC antenna means antenna which is compatible with the DSRC protocol. Then we have some in-vehicle components. Dedicated short-range communication radio module is there. There is another GPS receiver module. Then there is driver vehicle interface which generates warning issued to driver. Then we have vehicle's internal communication network, existing network that interconnects the components. Then definitely the safety applications which incorporates different electronic control units, that is ECUs, runs safety applications. Then is the memory which stores security certificates, application data, and other information. So these are the broader domains, or I would say broadly these components are there, but it's not so simple. Every module is very, very complicated, and this is inside the vehicle. And if we are able to provide the internet services to this hardware, and while it is moving, and then definitely we can say that this vehicle is a smart vehicle. A smart vehicle means what? A vehicle which can take decisions on its own, right? So after this, so vehicle to infrastructure connectivity analysis through quality of service parameters. So there are certain features which before jumping straight away on the hardware module or realizing this model on hardware directly on the vehicles, we have tried to simulate this environment on certain network simulators. Here we have used NetSim, and we have tried to recreate the scenario of IOV using the IoT modules, right? So for scenarios, we have used two different simulation or soft computing tool. One is the MATLAB, where we have done the coding part, and then another is the simulator, where we can drag and drop and connect and give some, we have some canvas where we can connect and create IOV scenario and just see the performance of the network. So this is one model. So we are gradually moving towards how a vehicle to vehicle structure or architecture is modeled. So this is how some of the salient features: path loss model, Frisk path loss model, COS231, HATA urban model. Those who are from communication background, they can understand. We have used path loss model, but interestingly, we don't have any dedicated wireless propagation model for the 5G standards or working on such a big ultra wide band like 5 gigahertz band. We don't have reputed path loss models which we can use for modeling. So we need to get some inferences from the conventional path loss models, and then we have recreated this path loss model. However, we are talking about IOV, so it's an heterogeneous environment. So the path loss models applicable to other wireless communication standards like GSM, CDMA, 2G or 3G, we have used those models just to know, I mean, how IOV can work, right? Now gateway, power transmission range, simulation time, and some system input configurations are placed here just to showcase that how IOV vehicle is being configured. Now, if I talk about the modeling and simulation, so from here, our second module starts, right? The basic picture. Because so far what we have covered, let me go back. This is the 50% of our discussion. Again, it's a structure, Internet of Vehicle. What is the smartness? What kind of architectures we have? What is the taxonomy of networks which we will be dealing with? And then what are the issues vehicle is moving? So we have two-lane vehicle, two-lane traffic, three-lane traffic, six-lane traffic. So how a vehicle can migrate from or switch from one lane to another lane? There is some issue. So what are those issues? How we can fix? How we can model? How we can develop an algorithm? How we can simulate? And then finally get some of the performance analysis. And then second big part B, is realizing this entire simulated thing on a hardware. So doing the experiments. Probably Mr. Madhu will be using some of the RPI modules to do some part of the experimentation, which will definitely help all the audiences. Now next part, again I will go to the concerned topic, that is the second module of today's session. It's a real-time optimization algorithm for smart vehicular communication. Here, I would like to emphasize that we have worked upon one research paper, me and my research scholar, Ms. Divya Punya. She is the research scholar since last 4-5 years, and probably is supposed to submit her thesis in another 4 to 6 months. So she has done some wonderful work on MATLAB as well as on NetSim, and definitely when another simulation tool is there, Wireless Insight tool, through which he has got some behavior of vehicles on different topologies. So some exercise she has done, but here I have taken only one module just to share what is happening in a road traffic, right, and how optimization can be used and how we can make a smarter environment using the IOV. So let's talk about this first. So we have prepared the paper, is communicated, and some part is published also. So this paper proposes a novel real-time traffic-based model, right? It assists self-driving vehicles to make requisite path changes, anticipating self-governing vehicles. So it's something like changing the lane automatically or in an autonomous mode, right? So which involves intelligence, decision making, and certain very reliable optimization algorithm, after which whatever decision has to be taken has been taken, and the time of decision is the most important thing, because we are talking about a vehicle which is moving. When it is moving, time is passing, it's a dynamic thing, and every second something is changing, right? So whatever information we gather, maybe through the sensors, maybe through the environment, has to be processed and decided very quickly. So this is the most important challenge which we have to address while dealing with the IOV or while dealing with the road traffic. To decide the best position time for giving RPC guidance to self-sufficient vehicles, right? It's an abstract. Traffic density also plays an important role. Its estimated progress information in lane changing will assist in combating the urban vehicular difficulties. So definitely, if we talk about the environment, like urban environment, suburban environment, or rural environment, we will find that the traffic density varies. There is one technical term called sparsity, or how much sparse is the area where vehicles are moving. So less sparse means less dense. More sparse means less dense, and less sparse means more dense. Right? So traffic density is there, and this traffic density leads to the teledensity. That is, more number of vehicles, more number of communication signals, more number of overheads across the network, and definitely the delay automatically comes into picture. Provided you have a very big, very fast processors to process, right? And definitely the key role is the optimization algorithm or the algorithms which you or we have used to take decisions, right? So next is the one important thing, normal travel time is inferred as a vehicle accepting a path change guidance to switch to another lane at a self-assertive position. So the proposed model, that is RTO, can be applied to guide autonomous vehicle to travel an optimal route. Some papers were referred, right? And I won't talk about the literature part right now, but definitely the basic protocol, that is using DSRC, that is dedicated short range communication, I have referred later. It empowers a wide assortment of driver aiding applications, right? And vehicle to roadside unit. Of course, vehicle to vehicle correspondence is also done through this protocol. But remember, we are talking about an IOV, and for an IOV, although VANET is there, but IOV for our modeling or for research purpose, we have used roadside units which controls, because the backbone of internet or the internet service is nicely and accurately provided by the roadside units. So one vehicle communicating to another vehicle in ad hoc mode cannot provide that much of bandwidth with which you can take fast decisions, right? Although we can have those protocols or algorithms for the benefit of VANETs also, but here we have taken a topology where roadside unit is there and on-board unit is there, and then how they are communicating and how the reliability check has been shown here. So definitely it improves the street security and traffic effusion. Right. Now, I would skip this part and this part. Yes. Let me come to this part directly. Now see, you will see that this is a diagram, a figure, where one vehicle is at point A, right? And we are having two lanes. I hope you are able to locate the arrow. Hello? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible, you're audible.
So this is one architecture, right? And this is a road which is having two lanes, lane 1, this is the lane 1, and this is the lane 2, right? This is the dashed lane, right? So our vehicle starts from point A, it is moving, reaches point B, where instruction is received. Then by the time instruction is received, the vehicle has moved to some further distance, and after a time TC, it has been shifted or switched to the adjacent lane, right, at point D, and then it moves, right? Now, situation is quite simple. It's a road. We have two lanes. From one lane to another lane, the vehicle has to move, right? Now, the important parameter is the speed, right? Some other vehicles are moving on lane 1 and some vehicles are moving in lane 2. I am sitting on vehicle A. A is supposed to move, right? Will traverse through this path that is B and C. But see, we have two different velocities. One is the velocity of the vehicle with which I am moving, and the another vehicle with which I have to compare whether I have to take the do that overtaking business or not, right? Based on that only I will see, I mean, how I have to proceed. And in this case, the another vehicle, say V2, with which I have to compare my velocity, makes the important, I would say, we draw the main major line between by comparing the two different velocities of the vehicle. One which has to be given the instruction to switch to another vehicle, and second, is there any neighboring vehicle moving in the proximity of this vehicle, and that too, what is the difference in the speeds or the velocity of the two vehicles, right? So that to avoid any collision, right? So further, once it is moved, then again it's the stop line. So this complete exercise is to be done from point A to point E. Later on, once this vehicle moves to E, it's the choice of the vehicle to let it move to any direction. So the transition is done at point C and D. Decision is made at point P, and E is the point where things are done, executed. Algorithm has been executed. So it is something how effectively our algorithm should work. So this is an graphical scenario. Again, see, these are some of the statistics which I have just, some details which I have just shown in the picture. I hope it is covered. So again, lane 1 is used for, there are two lanes. Again, I would like to repeat, there are two lanes of traffic in this direction. The outer lane, which is adjacent to the bike lane or sidewalk, is denoted lane 1, and the inner lane is denoted as lane 2. Lane 1 is used for both left turning traffics and traffic moving straight ahead, while lane 2 is only for traffic proceeding straight ahead. The road is divided into two sections along its length. The restricted section with length of LR, see LR, this is the restricted length. There I was. LR distant from the stop line, and an upstream section with length of L minus LR bounded by the entrance of the restricted section. So see, if this is LR, this is the complete, if this is LR and this is the complete length, it is this much distance or time associated with this much distance is with the vehicle, and within this time frame, it has to do the switching, right? And actually, everything is to be done in this L minus LR time. LR is the safe time, safe distance, and the time associated with LR is the safe time. Whereas this is the switching time or the handover time, L minus LR. Everything is to be done in this time frame. Now, all this is discussed. Now, let the free flow speeds of lane 1 and lane 2 are V1 and V2 as discussed. If V1 is greater than V2, the autonomous vehicle should change lanes as early as possible, since it can travel faster in lane 1 and spend less time on the road. This means the optimal X is equal to L in this case. So these are the only two concepts in this our entire session of 1.5 hours to understand. So what happens in the traffic? So here we have two different velocities associated with two different lanes, right? So if V1 is greater than V2, the autonomous vehicle should change lanes as early as possible, since it can travel faster in lane 1, right? And spend less time on the road. This means the optimal X is equal to L in this case. Optimal X is equal to this L, right? Now again, when V1 is less than V2, the situation becomes much more complex. If lane changing occurs too early, the vehicle would take much time in the slow lane, and it's a problem, right? So if the lane changing decision is too late, the vehicle may need to stop at the boundary of the restricted section and wait until a safe gap appears, which also increases travel time. Therefore, there is an optimal X star that needs to be determined to ensure the minimum travel time for the autonomous vehicle. So see, this is a graphical scenario shown earlier, and then a mathematical model, that is a time varying vehicular speed distribution, is taken, and a mathematical model is created, right? And then finally this particular thing has been mathematically framed and a model is developed, right? And then finally the coding is done accordingly, that keeping these constraints in mind, we have to optimize the time also, and some performance analysis we have checked. So lane change, some of the inferences which we got, first is the lane change instruction in given close to that start of model X section of road, which occurs because expected travel time is determined by two groups of vehicles. Those vehicles that do not change lanes until they arrive at the queue area, and those that find a safe headway and complete the lane change before the queue area, right? So the ultimate expected travel time is determined by the trade-off, and once this trade-off is there, it means we are talking about two different conflicting scenarios where one is giving some merits and another one is giving some demerits. So here we are having two groups and we have to develop a trade-off. If the lane change instruction is given to the vehicle too early, the expected travel time is dominated by the latter with a low flow rate because safe headway is more likely to be encountered. Conversely, for high flow rate, the former dominates. So there is a conflicting scenario, and very judiciously we have to take a decision so that both the things are avoided and we get an optimal solution of lane switching. So we have developed the algorithm, and then finally some travel time has been saved, right? And you can see with different V1, that is the velocities we have tried, and travel time accordingly has been saved. Now the performance for various traffic speed differences between lane 1 and lane 2 are shown. That is, if we vary our speed, right, then and this QA, I think QA here, QA denotes what? It's the sparsity, or I would say the number of vehicles per hour they are entering in a particular lane, right? So it's vehicle per hour, right? And the speed is implemented in meter per second. The overall expected time is greater with lower V1, especially at optimal points for lane change instruction. The optimal position for the instruction to be given gets close to the start of the section of the road when V1 becomes larger. So what was my objective through this is, what actually I wanted to show here. It's not like, I mean, I have shared any algorithm or so, but here I have tried to showcase one scenario of lane changing in case of a road and how an algorithm could be deployed. And I have not shared the algorithm right now because that is one I have earlier told you that some part is published and some part is communicated to the journal. So most probably after publication it is open and then I could share it. But right now these are some of the major contributions which I wanted to share. These are the recent contributions. Lane changing is not at all a new concept. It's very popular one, and Mr. Madhu will also be sharing some demos. I mean, how intelligently using an RPI 3, smart traffic can be managed, right? But I will talk one aspect later on. So this is the performance. Now some of the literature I would like to definitely share. I think the audience is not only, I believe that some of the scholars are also watching this presentation through this short-term program. Research scholars should also get some idea, like I mean, what are the things in, what are the current things happening in IOV. So just I have made some slides and very quickly in a short span of time I would like to share. One article is there in which some research gap by going through numerous literature, we have identified some special papers, and using those papers, I wanted to share some research gaps, right? So, which could be helpful to all the audiences. Sorry, my presentation is going somewhere. So, the slide 1, this is, I think, is slide number 41. I hope it is visible. So, see this paper in, there is one paper published in 2016, Internet of Vehicles, Motivation-Led Architecture, Network Model Challenges and Future Aspects. In this, we have identified some research gaps, and this is like incorporation of impact of moving and static obstacles in radio propagation model for vehicular communication could be addressed. It's an open problem which has been concluded. Then we have UAV for big data analysis, a very, very big open challenging issue is there. UAV means unmanned aerial vehicles, right? Then autonomous real-time route guidance is there, in which vehicle path does not change during the vehicle trip. So in this case, the proposed algorithm depends upon the exchanging information among the vehicles at specific geographic locations in the network. So this has also been our one modeling is actually inspired from this paper. We have taken some idea, references, and then we have modeled, right? And recently in 2016 also, reliable vehicular communication of IOV has been identified. And then there is some reliability issues, that is packet delivery ratio and end-to-end delay, which can be optimized, right? In case of ad hoc networks for smart cities, published in 2017 by Mayada and Abdelgard authors, right? So another interesting paper for routing protocols. And then we have, as said earlier, some propagation models are missing. So this paper again highlights some of the models, but still the complexity is still not addressed. Like, I mean, still routing techniques could be optimized using quality of service parameters. Then deteriorated quality of GPS signal in dense urban areas. So it's about location accuracy. Like GPS is already there, it is giving significantly a very good accuracy of location, but still can we have further improved GPS accuracy, because again in the urban environment the traffic density is increasing, and due to which the overheads are disturbing the GPS transmission and reception, and the quality or the accuracy is getting affected, is getting deteriorated. So it's an open issue to talk about. Then again some very interestingly, when we talk about a vehicular network, often we talk about delay, non-delay tolerant applications, right? Where delay cannot be tolerated. All the applications which are used or deployed in any vehicular environment, if they applications cannot tolerate the delay, then in that case, we need to have very precision optimized algorithms. But it's not the thing like everywhere you require delay sensitive applications, right? We have some non-delay or there are certain applications where you can tolerate delay. And delay does not mean like, delay of hours or minutes. The delay is like the buffering delay in milliseconds, right? I will come to that part again. I have submitted one proposal for time synchronization where the Navy people are expecting that you should have a time synchronization with an accuracy of nanoseconds. Although right now they are working on milliseconds, and to get an accuracy of time synchronization of the order of nanosecond is a very, very challenging thing. Right from migrating from millisecond to microseconds, a hell of effort is needed. So the Navy people are happy to even get a time synchronized protocol with an accuracy of microseconds. You see, once a decision is taken to fire a missile, right? So it has to coordinate and communicate in a coherent manner with some of the stations in the submarine, at the outside terrestrial world, and inside the ship, and at the fighter aircraft where the missile is located. So all these different units are working in different time zones, and all while synchronizing these different domains, there is a delay which is being experienced, which is not permissible, and it is of the order of milliseconds, 50 to 100 milliseconds. But still, with this much of time synchronization delay, they are doing the things, but they want it to be in microseconds. If it is possible, then definitely we have some very accurate target hitting and applications, right? So this is all about the delayed and non-delay tolerant applications, and definitely another very important application of WSN in underwater communication. Although you know very well that no wireless networks work properly inside under the sea level. Like underwater communication through wireless channels is very difficult. Only acoustic signals travel, right? But still, if you could accommodate wireless sensors or in general sensors, transducers, which could communicate for a short distance, even then it can help a lot. So there are things, people are working on them, and it's very not listed here, but I have submitted one proposal in the Navy Research Board, NRB Delhi, regarding this. Let's hope I get some acceptance to work upon. And then this is what related with the UAV again, with the IUV. I have taken again, and once I have shared one problem with Madhu sir also 1.5 years back. Am I visible?
Hello.
Sorry.
Visible, sir. It is visible.
So I was disconnected. Very sorry. I went somewhere. I was standing somewhere and was talking to something else. But still, these are some of the motivation areas where we can work upon and get the benefit of IOV. Right. Then let's conclude. There is nothing much to talk about this. And definitely some queuing theory is also deployed. Right. And validation is done on NetSim, right? NetSim, validation is done on NetSim. These are some of the results, like travel time saving and travel time saved in seconds. Here, like when we have used V1, V2, V3, these are the different vehicular speeds right? Threshold, vehicular threshold speeds which were used, and uh, see when there was a trade-off when we have used V1 is equal to 6, at that time we have saved maximum time. So it's not simply an independent velocity which dictates like, okay, with this much of velocity you can save maximum time. No, it's not the case. We have to take a trade-off or a optimal decision, and the decision is not only dependent on the velocity, but it is dependent on the different velocities of the neighboring vehicles, right? So this is how it is modeled. I have not explored the internal architecture, how exactly the modeling is done, but with this much time, just I have tried to motivate the audience like, okay, these are some of the aspects with which we can go. And now, Madhu sir, I am open for questions now. Interestingly, I was supposed to add one slide here for this particular in-vehicle hardware. Now you see, in this in-vehicle hardware, uh, uh, different components are being shown here, like dedicated short range communication radio. One module is there. Another is GPS receiver, right? Then another is driver vehicle interface. We need to have an interface which could communicate with the driver. Then we have vehicles internal communication network. Then we have safety applications, and then we should have one memory where we can store and the authentication things, because you see steering lock activity, central door lock activity is nowadays a popular feature of every vehicle. Now again it's a short range communication, right? And anybody who could hack your this short range communication, any intruder can hack your this short range communication and can lock your steering, and you cannot start your vehicle. So this is a simple case of security. But now the complicated case is like you are driving on a highway at a speed of say 100 or 120, and somebody and any intruder hacks through the short range communication and locks your steering, then what will happen to your vehicle and to you? So it's a concern, right? So security, it's not like security, my car or my vehicle will be taken away by the thieves, right? It's not about that. It's about really the security issue associated with this steering. How steering is locked or door is locked or many other situations are there. So it's like hacking the vehicle or hacking your life, right? So one module. So here, I was just supposed to tell you like how security is a very important thing. But one interesting thing I wanted to share with this picture is that it's a big vehicle with different modules, and every module will require some electronic control units, will have some transducers, will have some cables, will have some wireless interfacing, wired interfacing, isn't it? And everything has to be coordinated, communicated, and it should be shared. So, although everything will be there, and a standard, there is one standard called AutoSAR. I hope you people might be aware of AutoSAR. So, if anybody wants some detail, I can share the details of AutoSAR also. So, AutoSAR is a standard which provides a set of protocols. How you can connect, coordinate and communicate with these different hardware modules inside the vehicle through a panel or through a dashboard. So it's a smart kind of thing, and an intelligent manner. Different hardwares, they get the hardware. Basic hardware is the digital one, right? Finally, after the complete design, you will find you are having digital circuits, and they are nothing but based on the FPGA kits and other things, right? So the smaller units are FPGA, they are the hardware. Now they can be reconfigured to create a new hardware or a new electronic control unit. Very interesting thing. So how through an algorithm those FPGA modules can be used, right, to get a new hardware. So you need not to bring a new independent hardware. You are already having a breadboard, and but simply through an algorithm, you create new hardwares for different application inside the same vehicle. So very interesting thing. And through AutoSAR, some part has been designed and has been supplied to some of the very big automobile industries, and people are working on those modules also. Now for us, I mean, it's not about the company. What I wanted to share and convey here is that there is a very simple RPI board which does this complete exercise. And just what you need is a RPI, the latest version RPI 3, and I don't know, I am not updated right now, but RPI 3 will do the purpose and will suffice all these conditions. And any non-smart device or any non-smart human being can be made smart using the RPI 3 module. After going through one, I have undergone one workshop at NIT Warangal, and this thing was very poor. But after going through the RPI module and the Python programming, I gained some confidence. Like, okay, now I can make anything smart. I can make any being smart, any device, any vehicle I can make smart by using this RPI module. So this here, I mean, suppose if you have to design and develop some concepts of these modules, which I am showing right now on the slide number 23, then that can be very easily framed and designed on RPI 3. And you can test it using RPI 3. And interestingly, some of the other companies are also working, which will help you to emulate, like whatever you design and configure or code through Python in RPI 3, that module can be used in this vehicular environment, and you can emulate it. Like, I mean, you can place it in between the communication link, right? So whatever communication one vehicle was doing with the another vehicle, say in case of vehicular environment, on a simulator, now what you will do, you will take the output from the vehicle, right? You will feed it to the RPI module, and the output of the RPI module will be fed to the another vehicle, right? So, and in this manner, the simulator, which earlier you were using, becomes an emulator, and through RPI module, you can emulate the environment and you can really test what is actually happening between the two vehicles. So it's a very interesting thing, and you can monitor through the dashboard, you can analyze through the RPI, and remember RPI is having memory that can be extended, right? So depending upon your algorithm, your complex algorithm, you require some more memory. And I have gone through one another, rather I have seen that part in, in one of the YouTube, that you can file up different RPIs and you can create a search engine. Very interesting. So by using say 16 or maybe any number of RPIs, you can multiply the memory storage, the RAM storage. Like the RAM and ROM can be enhanced to say 10 times, 100 times using the same RPI module, right? So anyways, if there is any memory constraint, then some interconnections are required, and you can increase the memory also, and you can increase the memory up to the way they have shown, it's up to 1 TB you can get the memory. So it's very big memory space you can create by getting the replicas of RPI. But definitely you will have RPI, right? So very interesting thing, RPI. So why I don't know why I am marketing for RPI, but the thing is like this exercise could be very nicely realized through the RPI, and I would say uh, next very interesting thing regarding another important thing was, but anyways, that was not realized, so I don't think it is needed here. But yes, if I talk again, then it's about the artificial intelligence, like the deep learning and machine learning aspects. I attended one another workshop at IIT Bombay, and from there I learned like how different deep learning algorithms could be used and can be programmed through the Jupyter notebook. Python code can be generated, and it can have a wonderful code by which we can train our vehicle, we can make our vehicles more intelligent, more smart, and a smart vehicle is finally uh, possible. And right now, vehicles are not that much smart. Why? Because are right now not working in intelligent mode. But Google and other some of the companies, they have their like just you speak, and then I want to go to Jaipur, and then you sit in the vehicle and vehicle will move accordingly and will drop you at Jaipur. So some Google cars are there. I have seen it is implemented, but it's not for the common people. But it's the technology. The technology should be in such a manner that it should come to common people. The way Madhu sir is doing is a wonderful job. He is actually disseminating the most complex technology in the most simplest way to a a layman, I would say. If any person who is who has just passed 8 standard, 10 standard, and is having some keen and aspiration to do work, to do something in this domain, can work. And he has shown some of the wonderful projects earlier also. And I am very much fascinated by him, and because of him I am motivated. Earlier I was a bookish person going through the theoretical models, simulators, and he has given me the motivation to just do some hardware aspects. And Madhu sir, I would like to share that some problems I have taken, and like smart ambulance. One project I have floated to DST, I am waiting for the approval, smart ambulance. So, very important thing. And that was submitted 1 year back. 1 year back, that smart ambulance project was submitted, and now we are facing this corona pandemic. And I was having some wonderful ideas in that smart ambulance, and definitely I would have also contributed through that project in this corona pandemic, but still I am working, and not much, but definitely I would have put some scratch to this by helping. But anyways, so some of the structures are there. Theoretically, right now I am working, and you see, this was all about my talk. Sorry, it's a little bit short, and my main aim was just to motivate you to work in the field of IOV and what happens in case of this. If anybody needs any modeling aspect or the pseudo code of this, I will definitely share, because the STC is still continuing, and I will definitely share this code with you people. And this is all about my presentation. I am open for queries. If audience, in the audience, if anybody is having some doubt, please ask.
Hello, sir.
Madhu sir.
Hello, sir. I am Srinivas Ravi, coordinator of this particular HTTV program. So, thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation and to be with us. You have really given a very good knowledge regarding the smart vehicles and what are the various technologies that are being used. It's really a fantastic lecture, sir. Thank you very much.
And I don't know whether I have properly catered or not, but still, I mean, it's a very, very big domain. How to contain it and how from where to trim it and what to include. So I thought, I mean, how I can accommodate this concept in this STC was still a very challenging thing, and I was still working. I have not, I am not very much happy, but still, I feel like definitely it will help you all people, all the audience. And thank you once again, Madhu sir, and assisting me and calling me via Mad Blogs. And it's all from my side. And one interesting thing, like actually, I am a man from communication domain, communication engineering domain, and now I am entering in the field of electronics domain, controllers, transducers, and sensors, right? And earlier I was working in the communication engineering field. So I have given one marathon lecture available on YouTube for 5G standards, like some wireless propagation model, how they can be used for 5G standards, which includes this WSN also and IoT modules also. So if you people or the audience feels like less content has been delivered, then probably one video lecture is available on YouTube, which I delivered at NITTT Chandigarh, and it was a marathon lecture of 4.5 hours. So in that I have discussed some propagation models, and you people can get some idea about propagation models, what kind of models, why models are used, and how it can suit IoT builds and suit the builds of IoV. So definitely that video lecture will also help you out. But for today's session, I think much is to be understood through the RPI module. The way Madhu sir programs and designs the short code give a lot. So thank you very much, sir, from my side, and all the best for the STC.
Hello.
Ah.
Madhu sir. Madhu garu.
Sir, it's not only Madhu sir. I would like to thank Srinivas sir also, and the other organizers who have wonderfully coordinated this thing and invited me to be part of such an esteemed college and this STTP program. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your time. Hello.
Hello, Madhu garu.
Sir,
Hmm.
there were no questions asked in the YouTube, sir. Can we wind up the session?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So the next session will be at 2:30. So I request all the participants to join at 2:30. Thank you, one and all.
Thanks.
Should I leave, Madhu sir?